Welcome to Regent Park TV. I'm Samuel. Ontario passes Bill 60, how Regent Park tenants could be affected. Today, we're looking at what Ontario's newly passed Bill 60 means for tenants right here in our community. The legislation gives landlords more power to fast-track evictions, and it's already raising serious concerns among tenants, advocates, housing organizers, and neighborhoods like Regent Park have long faced displacement pressures.
People over profit! People over profit! People over profit!
During the vote at Queen's Park, protesters shouted, "People over profit," before the public gallery was cleared, highlighting just how tense and divided the issue has become. Many residents live in rental buildings, including Toronto's community housing units, where TCHC acts as the landlord. With Bill 60 making eviction processes faster and limiting what tenants can argue at hearings, advocates say TCHC tenants could face more pressure and fewer chances to defend themselves. To help us understand the local impact, we spoke with Waleed Kogali Ali, co-chair of the RPNA, Regent Park Neighborhood Association. Waleed shared how Bill 60 affects tenants across social housing and how the RPNA is mobilizing the community through workshops, town halls, and citywide actions to defend tenant rights and fight rising evictions and housing insecurity. Let's hear what Waleed had to say.
My friends, my name is Waleed Kogali Ali. I'm the co-chair of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association. I'm also an affordable housing advocate. I want to work with all of you to end the financialization of housing. And Bill 60 is a really horrible law that will only support landlords. It will weaken tenant rights, specifically making it much not as accessible as it is right now, and even now it's not good condition for most tenants. Most tenants can access a hearing at the Landlord and Tenant Board. With this new law, it reduces the notice provisions, but it also does something that is drastically new. One, a blacklist for tenants who are evicted. This is precedent setting. Secondly, you have to pay upfront to get a fair hearing. That's unconstitutional, and in my opinion, no one should be paying to access justice. This is a horrific piece of legislation that will only harm tenants. And I want to implore you to join the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, but many tenant-focused organizations to address the impact of Bill 60, but also to call for a moratorium on evictions from social housing. I think the City of Toronto has the ability to end evictions today by mandating Toronto Community Housing to stop evicting vulnerable tenants. Bill 60 is a legislation that was drafted with influence from corporate landlords, greedy landlords that want to evict you for whatever reasons. And I think it's important that tenants help inform what laws are drafted and approved at Queen's Park and what bylaws are drafted at City Hall, and also what laws are drafted in Ottawa to better protect tenants. 70% of our neighbors in Regent Park are tenants. 70% of residents across Toronto Centre are tenants. Almost 50% of residents of Toronto are tenants. Tenants deserve respect, and this legislation is the worst form of disrespect possible, and we will not stand for it. So let's work together to prevent the eviction of our neighbors and prevent the weakening of laws that protect tenants. Bill 60 will help Toronto Community Housing evict vulnerable tenants. In some of the cases I have been dealing with, a woman and her daughter were evicted from social housing because TCHC claimed that they had caused the damages of an elevator, about $300,000 worth of damages. With this law, Zulekha and Reem will not be able to get a fair hearing at the Landlord and Tenant Board unless they paid half of what they owed. That means this vulnerable tenants who are on social assistance have to raise $150,000 to get a hearing. How fair is that, my friends? And this is why it's critically important for us to call on our city to demand that Toronto Community Housing put a moratorium in place for evictions of all vulnerable tenants in our communities. Toronto Community Housing provides housing of last resort. If you are not living in social housing, you will end up in our encampments, you will end up in the shelter system, and it will lead towards outcomes, including death. And we need to do the courageous thing and demand respect now, before it's too late. Well, Bill 60 will make it much easier for tenants to be evicted, meaning that there will be more residents dependent on food banks, having food insecurity in our communities. And that's because housing is a social determinant of health. Without housing, we're going to get a lot of things wrong. And if you want to get things right, we need to invest in housing and we need to protect tenants so that they are not given a death sentence through an eviction. Because the less access you have to housing, the higher the mortality rate, or the more likelihood that you will live less. And that is critically important to understand. We're in the midst of a recession, my friends. Many folks are dependent on food banks and food programs to sustain their living standards because they're paying so much for rent. They're paying so much for housing. And we need to do better to ensure that our neighbors and you are not put at risk. You're not put at harm's way through laws like Bill 60 that will weaken our tenant rights, our collective rights. And I want to encourage you all to get involved because that's how we end this regressive laws that harm us. Youth are facing employment precarity, but also housing precarity. There isn't designated housing for youth. There isn't designated programs that will ensure that youth continue to live in their homes, continue to access this basic human right housing. And with Bill 60, it will mean many students, many young people who are trying to even just rent, that they will be vulnerable. The landlord will have more rights to evict, more rights to displace, and more rights to harm young people. And we need to do everything we can to prevent this. So Bill 60 harms our youth, harms the most vulnerable members of our community. Oh, my friends, we've been very busy this month with our first ever Tenants Town Hall, where we had over 100 tenants participate at the Regent Park Community Center. We had a workshop for those facing evictions or have been evicted. And it was at Daniel Spectrum in the community living room, where we had a lot of tenants who shared their perspectives on the process and what they would like to see changed. We had elected officials join us to listen and also speak to Bill 60 and its impact. We had a workshop just last week focused on youth and their needs when it comes to access housing and understanding their rights. And we have a workshop this coming Saturday, November 29th, that's going to be focused on seniors and the gaps that they see, and noting that seniors are facing alarming rates of eviction from my own personal experience supporting seniors in our community. And through this Empowered Tenants project, we're hoping to gain an insight on the gaps so that we could recommend to all levels of government stronger tenant protections for all of us. And I want to thank the amazing project team led by Faten and the amazing animators that have done this work in a collaborative manner, multilingual campaign to ensure that all the voices that have been missed are at the table. And it's an important part of the work that RPNA does and will continue to do in 2026.
Waleed's insight reminds us that protecting homes in Regent Park takes awareness, action, and a community working together. For Regent Park TV, I'm Samuel.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also follow us on social media, and for more information, check out our website.